Welcome to the Zandbergen Report, where wealth strategies and investment wisdom collide, featuring your distinguished host and certified financial planner, Bart Zandbergen.
Welcome to the Zandbergen Report, a showcase for wealth strategies and investment wisdom that's essential for our evolving world. I am your host, Bart Zandbergen, and we've got a full studio today.
You got them packed in here.
We've got, of course, my partner, Letitia. Letitia,
hello.
welcome. Paul, the engineer.
Always ready.
And with us, our special guest today, our intern. We call him the intern.
The intern. Doesn't have a name. He's the intern. Let's show him the intern here. Wave to everybody, the intern.
His name is Zavin, and he's doing a wonderful, wonderful job. And Paul once asked why he could not be our intern.
Yeah.
Because
And we had said, well, Paul, you just can't wear cargo shorts.
You got to dress for the part here? Oh, I lose.
So
although I'm looking over here, you guys are wearing blue. You guys look great. You look sharp. Blue in all aspects. Even your shirts are blue.
Yeah.
Naturally, you find somebody dresses sharp for this sharp show, and you sharp dresser, sir.
So, Paul, how'd you like our 1 year celebration?
I had a ball. I met so many cool people again, and there were others there that I hadn't met, future guests and stuff. And I brought my wife along, who normally rolls her eyes when I say, oh, we're going to go to something and meet. She's like, yeah. I'm going to meet all these people. She had a ball. She really thought she had a really cool collection of people there.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Do you want to tell everyone what we did?
I guess we should.
Yeah.
We should probably mention what we did, which we celebrated our 1 year anniversary of our show.
Zandbergen Report.
Zandbergen Report. And we invited all of our previous guests, some of our upcoming guests, so they all got to
see.
Hey, wow!
They're out applauding.
Studio audience. And I'll tell you the one of the most interesting things I heard all night, and I did share it, so it's not going to be new to Paul or Letitia, but one of our listeners came up to me and said, I really like your guys' show. I listen to it all the time. And he goes, you know what my favorite part is? And I'm like, I'm thinking it's got to be, well, I don't know, when Letitia says a joke, or when I expose Letitia and make fun of her or something like that.
No, that's funny, by the way.
Yeah. And he goes, no, when Paul talks.
See,
Paul knows a little bit of everything.
That's right. The underappreciated asset on the team here.
That's right.
We appreciate you,
No,
Paul.
I really, I don't say that facetiously about your guests. You have a very interesting collection of people that you've brought in that run in your circle. Very successful people, very interesting people doing amazing things, generous things, helpful things. It was such a wide spectrum of people. It wasn't what I expected. I thought it was just going to be, typical Orange County bunch of very successful entrepreneurs all slapping each other on the back, saying how successful they are. I didn't get that. It was a very heartfelt group of people, and that was nice to be in that room.
All right, so I'm going to take that as a compliment and move on.
It is.
All right, so we're going to continue with our theme, which is going to be somewhat ongoing, which is what keeps you up at night. So what Letitia and I have been doing is asking some of our listeners, asking some of our top clients, what keeps you up at night?
And before you jump into it, I'm going to ask you the question I asked you before we went in the air. Is that a surprising question when you go to them? Are you the first one that's ever asked them that question, and how do they react?
So most of the reactions are a kind of a pause, and because they have not been asked that question before. And in most cases, and I'm kind of surprised too, their response is, you know what, I want to give you a good answer. Let me think about that, and I'm going to call you back, which they have been.
Yeah.
Because they've had to think about it.
Yeah, right. Because, again, you deal with very successful people, and that's probably not something that anybody ever asks them or that they ever offer. Most successful people don't, if they have those feelings, don't share them.
Exactly. All right, Tish, I know you I think, had a listener question come in. You want to start?
Start with the listener question. Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, we have
Did I
several.
miss something?
Should we start over?
Wait, actually,
I didn't label them that way, so I'm very OCD, as you know. I'm like, wait, that's not how I labeled it. So, which question are you referring? You would like me to ask in the beginning? So,
okay.
fine.
Oh no. Okay, so
So there was a lady. I won't reference her name. Contacted us, and we were having a discussion. This is so funny. And we asked them what keeps you up at night, and so for them, it wasn't a financial matter specifically, but it was really for them. It was, current worrying or a current stressor that was in their life. So it could be something that it's brand new, and it varies and it changes. For them, it wasn't one thing specific, but for them, it was like, there was like a health issue that was going on and they were worried. It was basically, at the end of the day, it was a health issue that they didn't have any control over, and it was something that kept them up at night, being able to care about a loved one and making sure that they were okay. And it wasn't about them, but it was someone in their life that they cared about. So, Bart, you want to add some color onto how we can help with
Bart,
that?
take it away.
So that's going to parlay into one that I got recently. So I'll just kind of add it there.
So that wasn't the right one.
So
First.
no, it's gonna. But I do want to circle back on something else. But for the moment, so just generally, health, and I think so. The person that contacted me said, I'm really most concerned about my health. I've got now plenty of money, and I'm not worried about anything financial, but I'm worried about my health and will I maintain my health and so on and so forth. So which kind of caused me to think, and for most of the people that know me, that health is a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And it's important to me. And as it relates to your person, stress and things that are going on there, I really find that taking care of your health, having some form of exercise, some form of activity or movement every day, I think, is a great release and someone that help both with stress and then overall health.
And help them sleep better at night.
Yeah.
Just generally
But
speaking.
you know what, and Letitia touched on this, I think, inadvertently in when she described the problem. It's something you can't control for
Right.
most of us. You choose to take control of your health, Bart, and that's something we all should do. I think we all should learn from that. I don't do enough of that. But I think what keeps most people up at night, I suspect, are things they can't control, out of their control.
I would agree. And so to that matter, I mean, that's something that we talk about in general, and maybe we're not very clear on. That's what this whole conversation is about, is to be able to understand what is bothering our clients, what's keeping them up at night, what's their stressors, what's something that's a pain point, and then we help them come up with solutions to be able to solve that. So exactly what you're saying is, with timing and planning and getting people the right resources, that we're helping them with their overall their life in all aspects.
And I agree with that 100%. If anyone cares for my opinion or they ask, I would, one of the things that I would say is, especially for like the younger generation, like the Zandbergen generation, that's like up and coming, ambitious and drivers. So this is.
You mean the intern? We don't call him by his name. You mean the intern? Right.
Zandbergen has a name.
A lot of us, myself included, are driven by success and financial success. I mean, that's just, I think, the way a lot of us are wired. But what I hate to see, and it's not uncommon for people to lose their health at the expense. They gain their wealth at the expense of their health.
Yeah.
Right. So they're so busy and they're not exercising, they're not eating properly because
They
they're so
kill
focused.
themselves attaining what they wanted.
Yeah. And then the irony is, once they reach that pinnacle of success and they have the finances, and now they're draining their finances to try and regain their health, if that's even possible.
Right.
So to that, how can we help correct or give help? I think that's an area of advice that I think anyone can use.
Can I offer an awkward analogy here? Maybe I'm the only one. We'll do it. This is a Paulism for those listening. I remember when the great Steve Jobs reluctantly came forward and said he was sick and had cancer. I think it was a cancer, wasn't it?
It was.
And then it came out how he'd been hiding it from the investors and a lot of other people for a long period of time, and really not facing it for a long period of time. He didn't deal with it for a long period of time. He tried to do herbal things or tried to, holistic. He didn't take an aggressive approach to it, and he died. And I remember thinking to myself, boy, we all admired Steve Jobs. I don't know that I admire him right now. I don't want to be Steve Jobs, not just because he's dead, but because a man who we looked as such a visionary stuck his head in the sand.
So that's a very controversial
You
statement.
set it up. He set it up, by the way. Bart set that up because, just on the side note, I got a new phone. And it's not an Apple. And for the first time in, I can't even tell you how many years, and Bart has been asking every single person we walk in to be like, hey,
Apple or Google, right?
so which one do you like, Apple or anything else? And if not, why? So you totally set that up, by the way.
No, well, not intentionally, but I'm going to take a very middle of the road stance here. But I will say, Paul, where I think you're going to be challenged is that that Steve Jobs did not put his head in the sand. He just chose a different path to try and get healthy. Now, it didn't work. Neither path ended up working.
Right.
But I'll just leave it at that. I think.
But
I
he
think-
couldn't come forward clearly because the investors, he was afraid it would spook the investors that the guy who was seen as the man was sick. And I don't know. I don't know that it was. I just didn't get the feeling. For the first time, I didn't look at him and say, that's the path. There's a guy I want to emulate.
Okay, so let's go to the next question
right.
because we're going to agree to not. That happens sometimes. Bart and I understand that sometimes we don't always agree, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We have different opinions. So next question. So we asked a client, and the other one was not a client. This one's a client, and trying to figure out, what keeps you up at night, and trying to understand what was important to this client. And this client thought about it a lot, and came back to us with, it's not the finances. It's I'm not worried about that. It's actually what keeps me up at night is the family and the kids and the wife and everyone playing well and everyone being happy with one another and just helping them deal with life in general.
Yeah, that it gets really interesting when you're at a place financially where that's no longer a concern, and that's a minority, right? And it's a good place to be. But I think the family part of that could apply to anyone. And,
Yeah.
And in this particular case, I understand what he's trying to do, and I think one of the ways that we can help with that, and what we have helped with that, is when we run like our family meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a way, it's a forum for communication between the family members and for maybe the next generation to understand what the previous generation is trying to accomplish or would like to accomplish.
Right.
Can I ask you a question? It's just an observational question. We all think money will solve everything, but in many cases, money only makes the problems worse or bigger. And I could see that happening in families where suddenly too much money is causing fights and problems and demands or not getting along, or everybody's, I don't know. I just see all these big famous people and they get in these giant family fights. It seems to ruin the whole point of what they did.
Yeah. And I would say, another question that we'll probably talk about, and I'm going to loop back around to, is how people handle like the fear of money in general, just all the stress that comes with that. But to answer your question, my opinion, how this affects families in our like you were saying, like in a family meeting, the end of the day, you're talking about it in this room. Let's use this room as an example. We have different generations in this room, right? We all have different backgrounds, different values, and at the end of the day, we have a different way of thinking about how something should be done. And if we can't come to the table and be able to come up with a solution that people are like, hey, like what we just did, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we agree to disagree, and that's healthy. And then sometimes we agree that we're all united, and that's also healthy. And being able to see that we all have different opinions, and our opinion is our opinion. It doesn't mean that has to be the other person's opinion. And so a lot of those dynamics are important, especially when, like, we're like you said, if you're coming up with like a family foundation and you're trying to determine what charities you're giving to, what organizations you're giving to, or what your guys are supporting as a family, it's okay to be like, okay, well, it doesn't have to all be one purpose. We can work together.
Yeah. And I think something that's really closely related is someone's concern, again, what keeps you up at night, is entitlement. Mm-hmm. And that kind of goes to Paul saying, well, money can be either, fix things or ruin things. Well,
yeah, right.
Entitlement can turn the next generation or the children into something less than desirable because they have a different opinion of money or it's too easy for them. And so, and that was a real response from one of our clients.
Do you see the what I'll call the Bill Gates role model, where, or Warren Buffett, where they're saying to their next generation, "You're not going to get it all"?
Yeah, Absolutely.
And we've seen it with some of our clients, and it's certainly you've named a few. And Phil, I just finished the book Shoe Dog. Phil Knight, the guy,
Phil Knight,
the memoirs of Nike, and he did the same thing,
Which is shocking.
or is doing the same thing.
You know, I mean, you think you're saving it. The whole thing is I'm doing it to achieve something, and I'm doing it also to pass on a legacy to my children. But maybe the best thing I can do is not give it all to them here.
Well, and that's something that we work with all of our clients with, and that's something that we talk about and we discuss. What's your values? What's your goals? What's your objectives? And then help them get there. And then we have open dialogues, and like you're saying with the family meetings, we can have a conversation and figure out how to navigate there. So it's a bigger picture, and what you're seeing, a very common theme for what we do with our clients. It's not just portfolio management. That is absolutely part of what we do. It's not just solely that. It's really being able to understand the complexity of a family's wealth in all aspects and be able to help them navigate through those difficult decisions as they go through those steps and make those decisions.
Yeah. I think it's time to hear from the intern.
Zavin.
The intern.
You've got a name.
Get a completely different
All
perspective.
right, nice.
Hey, Zalman.
Let's get you really closer to the mic there. There we go.
Is that better?
Do we get to disclose your age range or how old you are?
No, that's it. No.
No, wait. Well,
Is there a guess?
yeah. Give the range.
You want to guess?
I would say I'm looking at you. You're not 30, so I'm going to say late 20s.
No.
Really? Okay.
Close.
Close.
Not really.
22.
20.
20.
Yeah.
So college student.
So college student, yeah.
So maybe
It's
potentially
a
much
definition
different.
of an intern, by the way.
much
Yeah.
different.
Okay,
He's
maybe
in
it's 'cause
college.
you got the
It's
jacket
the summertime.
on, so I just assumed that.
Jacket, facial hair, all that stuff.
All right, Zavin. So from where you sit, what you've got college, you've got work, you've got family, you've got probably girlfriends. What keeps you up at night?
Girlfriends. He's got girlfriends.
Yeah,
Plural, yeah.
Keep it real.
Yeah. I don't know. Just talking about it with a couple of people, I've kind of gotten different responses. But it doesn't become any less significant as you get older. It's just different things transform and morph into new problems or new experiences that you don't really know how to handle. I mean, for me, it's student loans, getting a job, having financial security. Maybe more unusual for me, like having a financial plan for the future. Managing my wealth, understanding where money comes from, not really just having that.
Understanding where it comes from. Doesn't it just come from dad?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like that's a basic misconception about most of my generation, sadly. But just being aware of my surroundings and what I'm looking forward to.
You got to hit the button.
We're getting a
You're
caller.
getting a caller. Just hit below there, right there. Somewhere there's an up and down button. Let's see how well. No. Well, Bart did something. Okay. You got it to stop.
Good. Continue.
But yeah, and I mean, compared to like someone who's I asked someone who was about 33, 34. They're buying a house. They're starting a family. They're not any less significant. However, they're just different problems that we haven't faced yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's what really changes, keeping you up at night. Maybe not that severe per se, but just as notable.
Can I ask you a question? Because
Sure.
I have a millennial. I think Bart has millennial children. I met your daughter. I don't know what age she is, but she's got to be late 20s or 30 or somewhere around there.
In there.
My daughter's in her late 20s. And I don't find them, in some ways, they all want the American dream. They want more. They want success. But they don't seem as materialistically hungry. They don't care about the best car. They don't care about other things that I was just craving for, when I was your age. We had one of our show hosts in a while ago was saying his oldest son doesn't care, lives very simply, almost like a monk, very minimalistic, and it's all into experiences, travels the world, does all sorts of involvement, charity work and whatnot. Wants to make money, but isn't as into accumulating things as I think we were. Is that true?
Are you finding that with your peers or even yourself?
My friends personally, I feel like they're more like this room here. They kind of want to accumulate wealth, kind of put their right foot forward. But I mean, I do meet plenty of people as well who are just, who are satiated with having, just being secure, like just having different goals. So I think it just depends on, your, I guess, environment, the people that you meet. But I think there's plenty of, millennials, Generation Z out there that are looking to accumulate wealth and become, filthy rich or whatever the term is,
Do you want to own a home?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Because a lot of millennials don't. They're saying, "I'll live without that. I want the house in the." At least at this age, they say they don't. Or they don't seem to want a car. I'll live on Uber the rest of my life. I'll live with a smaller footprint because maybe it burdened my parents, and I saw what happened to them and in the Great Recession, and I'm just going to shed all that stuff. I'm going to live simply, the tiny house movement, all that kind of stuff.
Well, it seems like people don't want to make mistakes, and I think that's the biggest mistake. Personally, because you don't learn. There's no growth. You're just kind of stagnating at a younger age, just because it feels safer and feels, what's the word?
Safe?
Oh, yeah, pretty much safe. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the biggest thing. That's what I've seen in this generation mostly is like them not really reaching out and seeing if an olive branch extends as well.
Yeah.
Before the olive branch extends, rather.
Huh. We've had, speaking to that, we've had one of our guests and a friend of ours, he has 3 children. One of his sons, he is living somewhere in the world, I think it's in Indonesia, surfing every day, has an online business, so he does just enough what he needs to do every day to support a very inexpensive life and does what he wants to do.
Yeah, it's like one of our other show hosts was saying that's what his son basically does. He's in Colombia right now climbing a mountain or something, and works online, does things through a computer to earn just enough.
Yeah.
But I mean, to add to that, I always feel like my personal belief is create the lifestyle that you want, and then at the end of the day, I mean, I work really, really hard, and I never wanted to have a job that I felt like it was a job. I wanted to have a job that I felt passionate about, and then I kept on pursuing that and made sure that was priority, and then I created the lifestyle I wanted around that. So at the end of the day, I made sure that my job, my goals were in line with what that looked like, and they all kind of were able to sync together.
That's smart. We're going to continue this theme probably for the next couple of months with guests, and when it's Letitia and I. But I encourage the listeners to either Twitter their comments in or email us, because we'd really like to address the issues that are on people's minds.
And get real, and everybody has a flip answer. Oh, my kids keep me up at night or something. But I think it is a conversation not enough people have. We don't even have with ourselves.
And so, Zavin, to add to your point, what you said that keeps you up at night, typically on the show what we do is we ask a question and then we kind of dive in a little bit deep, and then we come up with some solutions and some answers to your questions and kind of come up with tools. And in our shows in the past, we have some that talking about debt and debt management. We have some that talk about purchasing a home and the difference between buying or renting. We talk about also saving strategies. We have a different one that talking about financial planning as well. So I'd love to encourage you to listen to our show as well, and then to give us some feedback on your thoughts if what we're saying here on the show is impactful or give you any solutions to the things that are keeping you up at night, or if there's things like, hey, okay, I liked what you said, but what about this? And then ask us that as well. And then also to the audience, like I'd love for you to go back and re-listen to some of our other shows that are specific to what's going on to you and your financial needs, because maybe right now the first topic like this might not relate to you. Maybe it does, but at the end of the day, maybe some of our other content that we've had in the past might relate to your certain situation.
Hey, Zaman, I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit because we're running out of time.
Let's do it.
What I usually ask our guests, and so one of them is, what is your ultimate lesson learned?
Ultimate lesson learned
at this young age,
so far in your very young age of life.
That really, if you work hard, that you can get where you want to go. Maybe not at the right time, maybe not the time you wanted, but you'll get there. I think that's one of the most important things I've learned so far.
I like that.
I do too.
I like that.
We'll keep you around.
All right. And then even more important, what's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. Jeez.
He had one. I saw it flash in his face. I said, I'm not going to say that.
No.
My parents are listening.
Okay, scratch that one. What's number 2?
My guilty pleasure, I guess, working out too much. Probably.
Safe answer.
There you go.
In this
Mom,
crowd,
Dad,
yeah.
he's good.
Chocolate bonbons. I don't know.
So fun.
All right. Tish, you want to tell everybody how to find us?
Oh, this is so funny. We actually had someone say, they're like, that's so great. I'm so glad that you can like us or tweet us or connect with us, but I don't know how to do that. So I want to walk you through this. If you have an iPhone, you're going to go to your...
Do people still have those?
Maybe Bart should be saying that one.
See, this is not funny anymore. So if you have an iPhone, you're going to go to your... What do you go to?
Podcast icon?
Yeah, it has a little microphone. It has an icon there. And then you select Zandbergen Report. And then underneath it says Wealth Strategies and Investment Wisdom, just like the little picture behind us. And you can subscribe and play right there. You can, if you find us on, let's say, Instagram, or, you can say Podbean. You can go there. It's also hosted there. iHeartRadio.
You're everywhere.
We're all over the place, which is fantastic. And thank you for the listeners that are listening to us. It's so fun in here. We feel like we're just having a conversation.
You're on iHeartRadio. You're not just on, TuneIn. You're on all these platforms that people wouldn't expect. I just have to do a shout out for Apple. They are going to do something dramatic that's happened already in the new version, the new operating system. They're going to kill the iTunes store. It's already been announced. And they're going to break it into segments. So there will be a segment, an app just for podcasts. That's how popular. What they started this by accident when they said, if you got something uploaded to us, and they started calling them podcasts because you could only listen to them on an iPod. But that it shows the growth of this medium. They're going to break the store apart and have separate apps for separate parts of the content.
So great.
Go iPhone.
Go iPhone. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks, everyone, who has tuned in. We look forward to being back in the studio next week. Cheers.
Tune in next week for the latest edition of the Zandbergen Report, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Catch up on our recent shows by visiting bartzandbergen.podbean.com. The Zandbergen Report is also available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Interested in being a featured guest on our show or have a question you'd like to hear us answer? Email podcast@bartzandbergen.com. Bart A. Zandbergen, CFP, and Letitia Burbaum, AIF, are registered investment advisors with Optivest Inc. and registered representatives with Gramercy Securities Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered by Optivest Inc. under SEC registration.